All right. We have a very special next guest. She is a champion of consumer rights. In fact, she is part of the reason that your consumer mobile data bills aren't just through the roof here in the UK. I hope that you guys will join me in giving her a huge round of applause as she hops on stage. Please welcome Neelie Kroes from the European Commission and our moderator again, Mike Butcher.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Very rude of me. Neelie Kroes, thank you very much for joining us at Disrupt.
Pleasure.
I'm excited to interview you, actually, because I haven't interviewed you before. And you've done a heck of a lot of things at the European Commission while you've been there. I was running down the list of things that you've done, and it's enormous. Memo on the telecom single market, cybersecurity, web accessibility, broadband, startups, coding for kids, big data, photonics, Internet of Things, robotics. I mean, honestly, I could read this out, but everyone we'd use up all our time. And one of the things that I was thinking when I was reading about this was how on earth you managed to juggle all of these different topics. Was it not a gargantuan task?
Absolutely, but with so much fun. And well, look what's happening here. So you should be a very crazy person not to get inspired and involved. So with a lot of pleasure and with a lot of fun and still a lot to do. And by the way, and I was listening to the ones who were explaining what has to be done. At the end of the day, you, the entrepreneurs, the startups, they have to do the job. We, Commission, governments, we have to accommodate, and then it is exciting.
Do you feel that, do you feel satisfied at the moment? Do you feel happy?
Happiness for me is more combined with my private life. When I'm talking with, so that is anyhow.
Either or, go ahead.
Well, that is a nice story, and some of you are aware of that. I do have 2 grandchildren, and they are living in San Francisco.
Right. Yeah.
And they are 4 and 6 years old. And we are Skyping every Sunday afternoon, and that's more pleasure for the grandma than for them, but they are still behaving.
Yeah.
And at a certain moment, one of them was asking, "What is your age, by the way, Neelie?" And I said, at that time, I'm 72. And they said, "And you are still alive?" So I'm in a hurry to just push, and I'm aware.
You're in a hurry. Now, they call you Steely Neelie. Do you like that moniker? Do you like that phrase?
Yeah, why not?
You do?
Yeah.
Does it help you in negotiations with telecoms companies?
Well, not my nickname, no doubt about that, only the arguments. And I was really fed up when they still were walking in circles. And we can't afford to walk in circles. We need to speed up. And that is, by the way, quite exciting just to look at the situation where in the last century, in the 90s, Europe was in the driver's seat. And we are out of the driver's seat. And the talent is still in Europe, so we should be in the driver's seat.
Let me just ask you a couple of questions about that. So one of the policies that you tried to push through was net neutrality. It's been a key issue for you, but the number of EC countries which actually now have laws saying that all data should be treated equally is 2. Out of the entire European Union. Would you call this a success?
If you allow me to make a couple of remarks and coming to the answer.
Please do.
Number 1, it is absolutely marvelous that we do have a European Union, 28 countries together, one family, without borders, without barriers. By the way, one sector is still not involved in that approach, and that is telco. Telco still ring-fenced, markets crazy out of It's an old-fashioned, to put it in a nice way. So that we have to tackle, and that was one, and is one of those proposals. But all in all, and then I'm coming to net neutrality, if you have a line and a policy where not every member state is making its own policy, but just united as a union, for otherwise it's fragmented and it's again looking backwards, then you should take into account no blocking, no throttling. That is not allowed in our proposal. Also, open internet for everyone. And if there is still a possibility and availability, then telcos, for example, can create specialized services and ask money for that. And that, by the way, is win-win. For them, they are interested, and then they are going to invest extra. And I need more investment in broadband, high-speed broadband.
How are you going to do that? Because to some extent, you recently told the telecom sector at a speech that it's its own worst enemy, and it needs to change to move forward. You said that Europe market is fragmented, ring-fenced, sub-scale, in fact. This is a European commissioner saying that the European market is sub-scale. The problem you've got is that the telecoms operators are turkeys, and turkeys don't vote for Christmas, right? I mean, what on earth can you do outside of hammerhead, state power, the statist-style laws?
To get those telcos in a mood that they are recognizing, and it's up to them, that it is a stupid line to be only the pipe owner and just only the transporteur, so to say. They should be far more out of the box thinking, and that is what I'm missing. They are still spoiled from the last period because they were protected and because they were ring-fenced in their own market. They should take those opportunities, and that is what I'm discussing with them.
What's in it for them?
Just a bigger market, making more profit, and not an old-fashioned business model, but a new business model that's connected with your way of living.
You recently unveiled a new scheme. I mean, it was actually literally only the other week, and this is the last days of your role as head of the digital agenda. The big data schemes, 2.5 billion euros. 500 million euros from the European Commission. You want to have a public-private partnership on creating companies around big data. Now, just from a historical perspective, in the 1970s we had ICL, we had Group Bull, we had Olivetti. These were all big data technology companies out of Europe. All of them withered, faded, some died, failed. How is your big data initiative going to succeed when so much European effort has been made in this area already?
That was under different circumstances, and absolutely. And what is at stake now with big data? It is main in the whole scene. And if with all those startups and with all those players in this game, we can just push it and get back in the driver's seat, and that is with the public-private partnership. It is absolutely main that we do have a couple of great efforts, and if we are following that, then it will be a success, no doubt about that.
But I mean, do you really think that this is, I mean, effectively what you're asking for is the big data companies, which are largely US, to invest in the European ecosystem. Do you think they'll do that?
They are already doing it, and I'm certain they are looking where they can make business. So it is a global scene, and we shouldn't wait till they only do it, but we also should create our own parties located in Europe. But quite a number of those big ones are also located in Europe, no doubt.
Part of big data is also to do with personal data, and personal data crosses over into the realm of privacy. Privacy has been a massive agenda for the European Commission and for Europe generally, and we've all seen talks about you yourself, your entire team was actually hacked in Azerbaijan, was it not, if you recall?
Yeah.
So this is a very big issue. Is there not a conflict between the European Commission's idea on one side around data and privacy, and on the other side, trying to encourage entrepreneurship?
Well, number one, it was not only in Azerbaijan. I'm nearby certain that...
Where else were you hacked?
Well, I'm nearby certain that when I'm using my mobile, that it's not normal that I'm blocked and throttled now and then in the way that I am. So I'm very careful, no doubt about that. Having said that, it is main that we are all very, very careful on our privacy issues. By the way, and if you don't mind, I would like to add to that. We are quite free and open in sharing and joining everything what is on Earth. So I'm always surprised what people put on their devices and then later on say, oh my goodness, but no, that is not what I had in mind. You should be more careful what you are sharing and joining. That having said, we have another culture in Europe compared to, for example, the US when you are talking about privacy. And there is even a court case, so I'm not certain that Google was that happy that they went to the court with that line.
But what I want to push you on slightly is this sort of conflict between, on one side, for instance, the right to be forgotten. The right to be forgotten. Now, would you not say that that's basically been a disaster? I mean, we have journalists having their posts taken down by Google. Yeah. I no longer trust. Personally, I no longer trust google.co.uk because it is now in the EU. If I want to make sure that there is an unfiltered access to the internet, why should I not just go to google.com? Because heaven knows what some European apparatchik has taken down on the insistence because of this right to be forgotten. So you have right to be forgotten, and then on the other side, you say, come on entrepreneurs, come on startups, you know, create new innovation, and you have this heavy-handed approach around information and data. How would you respond to that?
Be awake when you are dealing with all this. Two remarks. Number one, espionage is the second eldest profession in the world, and sometimes it's combined with the first eldest profession in the world. So having said that, and that by the way is accepted by nearby everyone, for you are asking your government to take care of your situation and your people. So having said that, there are limitations, and that was certainly not at stake with the last type of experience we had. Talking about the right to be forgotten, and my point always is, especially talking about the vulnerables, and then I'm talking about the younger generation. Yeah. Indeed, very, very important that we are teaching and educating our younger people that putting something and on the devices and pushing the button send, then it's gone. And not taking as a hook, but the right to be forgotten. For we can make that deal, and you can be forced to indeed delay that one. Having said that, what have you done before? Or for there are other people who have already got your message. So you can behave, and the right to be forgotten is filled in.
But it's not the young people who are using the right to be forgotten. The people who are using the right to be forgotten are charlatans, people who have had court judgments against them, nefarious individuals, heaven knows what they've been doing. Young people are not using the right to be forgotten. Young people are using Snapchat.
No, but my point is that the right to be forgotten shouldn't be used as an argument by parents or whatever. They should indeed educate their youngsters that they have to take into account that pushing the button send, it's gone. And of course, whatever, and so on. So be very, very careful. Those who are mentioned by you, and that is of course connected with the court judgment. And there you can take, and I think that Google at the moment is doing whatever they can, and up to you. But well, again, it is an open society, so we should get used to that, and it is a different mindset. Well, it's on one hand exciting, but it can also be exhausting, and I am the line to be exciting.
Well, we will continue to track that, the development of that policy. Let me push you now on Horizon 2020, it's the biggest EU research and innovation program. It's got about 100 billion, roughly, dollars, 80 billion euros. Between 2014 and 2020, you're funding green vehicle research, you're funding many, many different kinds of initiatives. But take, for example, just for example, in the field of green vehicles, in electric car vehicles, you're funding incumbent companies like Italy's Enel, Fiat, UK's BA Systems, Germany's Bosch. But on the other side of the Atlantic, we have an entrepreneur-driven company, Tesla. Okay, admittedly, it did have $465 million of a loan from the US government, but this is an entrepreneur-driven company pushing through, innovating, and pushing against the incumbents. Why is so much research money from the EU going to existing companies and not to entrepreneurs?
Apply, apply, apply. All those youngsters who do have interesting business models, let them apply. But that, and I couldn't agree more if that is the background of
so
your
apply,
point. No, but sorry.
Get the paperwork.
Yeah, no, but it is indeed paperwork, and that is worrying me too. And that at a certain moment, if you don't have a staff to just find your way through the jungle of that, so I'm pushing for that it is more easy to go, so to say, and especially
as
for
an entrepreneur, there must be an entrepreneur out here building a new type of electrical vehicle. Yeah. What can they do? Email you? How do they get through the red tape?
Start with that. Start with
Tweet
that.
you?
Also
You're very big on Twitter.
Yes, but anyhow, don't give up and just find your way. And don't think that it is too difficult for you, for there is also a lot of fairy tale mentioning. So, but all in all, I'm absolutely on your page when you are saying it is quite a bit of red tape and we need to get rid of that.
So courage, get those Elon Musks of Europe applying for that European funding. Let me ask you again about...
And there is also money for startups, huh? So
there is now, exactly, that's one thing. Now, you've got a program called FIWARE. Now, FIWARE, now this stands for Future Internet. It's a rather torturous name, but FIWARE has 80 million euros of funding. Now, this is going to 16 accelerators. Now, one of the problems I've seen about this is that, 16 accelerators, but I looked down the list. I didn't see Seed Camp. I didn't see many of the kinds of accelerators that I would normally see. Isn't there a concern that you're building a kind of parallel universe ecosystem, funding people who can apply for an acceleration grant, rather than, this ecosystem, which is really, the on the ground, the fundamental organic ecosystem? Isn't there two speeds between the people who can apply for the funding and the people who are actually out there doing the companies?
Some people highly prefer not to be involved in that type of application circuit. And rightly so. In certain cases, they have proven they don't need it, they take the hard way, but that is sometimes a successful way. So don't make the judgment that it is contra. It is parallel, and it's up to people, what do you prefer? But both are worthwhile, and both are quite fascinating in the whole.
Do you think we'll get the next Google, the next Facebook, the next Twitter from one of your EU-funded programs?
I'm not certain that it is from the funding program. It is because there are so many talented people who are taking initiatives, and that will be one of those new organizations with a brilliant thought, and I'm absolutely certain that's going to happen.
Well, I'll have to bring you back in a couple of years and we'll check if that actually happened.
But why shouldn't it happen? Come on.
Well, don't get me wrong, I want to see it too.
No, I am absolutely certain that this is the tech renaissance. It is not anymore civil servants, bureaucracies that are just paving the way and so on. It is you. And then the politicians and governments need to listen to you. And that is what...
Peter Thiel, the PayPal co-founder, recently on a book tour criticized Europe. He said, if you're a slacker with low expectations, those low expectations are likely to be met. People in Europe are generally pessimistic about the future. They have low expectations and aren't working hard to change things. What do you think of Peter Thiel?
Number one, he didn't meet everyone, and he wasn't in this environment. So I'm impressed, and not only here, but I'm impressed all those events, all those gatherings of very smart people and very creative and out-of-the-box thinking. And there we should listen to. And then he doesn't have a point that it is less here. There are two issues that I want to rock the boat on, and that is, but then not talking about you. For you are not risk avoiding, but so many people still are risk avoiding. That is never ever getting you to a higher level than what normally spoken is planned. And the second one is, a failure is not a negative one. Absolutely certain that also in Silicon Valley, of every 10 startups, 9 are failures. But then they take the initiative and they are not just putting the stamp on their head, you have been a failure. That has to be changed, and I'm always very open. My failures are much more than my successes. And by the way, my successes were taken for granted, for I worked like hell and blood, sweat, and no tears, but blood, sweat. But talking about my failures, I always thought, never ever again that type of failure. So you need failures to get more success. You need to leave risk-avoiding attitudes, and that is not only talking about individuals, but it's talking about the society.
Is the EU Commission, the new EU Commission President, Jean-Claude Juncker, is he up to the job?
Of course. But what is more important, he mentioned that it will be a digital presidency. And I saw him and I said, you made my day, Jean-Claude, but now you have to fill in and not only appoint a successor for me. By the way, I will be succeeded by 3 men, so the importance of the portfolio is quite clear. But all the commissioners of the team of Juncker need to be digital thinkers, for it is a horizontal issue. It's connected with all the other fields too.
Is he a digital drinker? Is he a drunk?
I don't know. I am absolutely certain that he is a team player and that he has interesting people in his team. By the way, if I'm talking about my 3 successors, one is the former Prime Minister of Estonia, one is the former Prime Minister of Finland, and the Commissioner to be is a former colleague who did energy, also not an easy one. So
let me talk to you about your new replacements. Günther Oettinger, who's the new EU's Digital Economy and Society Commissioner. He said celebrities who had their naked photos stolen and posted on the internet were stupid, and he sometimes even puts his own appointments into the calendar using his own iPhone. Andrus Ansip, the former Prime Minister of Estonia, at least he did a public Twitter chat recently. Is it sometimes a little bit embarrassing when these men who are replacing you make these faux pas?
Well, everybody has a right to make mistakes, and you are learning from your failures, so come on, give them a chance, and I'm absolutely certain that you won't let them go on in a way that is not constructive for the situation of startups. And for me, startups, and again, the tech renaissance is just the startups in Europe, and I'm impressed by what they are doing.
If you could change one thing about what you did over the last few years as head of the digital agenda for Europe, what would it be?
Taking too much time to get to an agreement together, and for example with the telcos. I first tried it without legislation, for I'm a liberal and I don't like regulation per se, only when there is no other way. I was absolutely on the side that I thought that they could get that change of mindset and that change of the market in Europe. and they were still sticking to the past. Only a couple didn't. So I would have started this lesson earlier than what I did.
You would have started earlier to hit the telcos hard.
Yeah. Well, I'm not hitting them hard. Come on, back to basic reforms in a single market.
Yeah.
So that is sometimes my issue. You can't get them thinking that it is a challenge instead of a threat, and that is just...
This is clearly not the last that we'll see of Steely Neelie in the EU. What do you feel your legacy is now that you're leaving this portfolio of the digital agenda? What's your legacy?
That nearby everybody is aware that digital is not a fact of you are in favor, yes or no. It is a fact. It's a digital economy. Everybody is aware that it's connected with his or her life. Talking about health, talking about an aging population, culture, energy, education, name it. So that is anyhow a difference compared to 5 years ago.
Neelie Kroes, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for coming to TechCrunch Disrupt.